we're in the middle of a very powerful campaign of Jewish unity. We are learning to be ambassadors for Jewish unity. And so every day of Hanukkah, in honor of the holy people who have sanctified their lives, sacrificed their lives for the Jewish nation in Bandai, lighting the menorah, in honor of these holy souls, we are sharing wisdoms of Jewish unity, and we're calling them sparks because you got to take the spark and you got to actually meditate on it, think about it, and then apply it interpersonally in order to create Jewish unity. Everyone here is an ambassador of Jewish unity. We'll try to provide the sparks of wisdom. Okay, spark of unity number one was being strong by connecting with God. When we're connected up above, we don't have to be afraid of the opinions of others. Spark of unity number two was genuine respect comes from looking at the soul, not just the opinions. And what we recognize is that the motivation of every soul that's here in this world is wanting to make a world a better place. So the opinion that someone has may be the opposite of my opinion, but their motivation is probably the same. I want to make the world a better place. My kind of enemy, my opinion enemy may have a, sorry, I want to make the world a better place, and therefore I want, my opinion is XYZ. Someone else wants to make the world a better place, but she has a whole different way of understanding the world, so her opinion is the opposite of my opinion. But if I understand that our motivation is the same, I can deeply respect her because now I see in front of me somebody who wants to make the world a better place. Today, we have to dig deeper because sometimes you meet someone and there's no evidence of their soul to your eyes. You don't see that they want to make the world a better place. You just can't find it. Sometimes you meet someone and you see cruelty. You see cruel behaviors. You see maybe mocking behaviors. Maybe you see a self-hating Jew in front of you who is hurting fellow Jews, and you just can't find the soul. Maybe you see someone who's done something very, very hurtful to someone you love. Meaning, maybe you have a friend who is divorced from an abusive man who is dragging her through courts and is alienating her children from her, and all you see is terrible, cruel behavior. How can you love every fellow Jew when there are Jews that seem to be really, really hurting other Jews? Is that a fair question to ask? Does that cut to the core of some of our resistance to loving every fellow Jew? What do you do when there's someone who just causes you to want to hate everything that they're doing? This is going to sound crazy, but the Torah doesn't hate hate. Meaning, we have to understand what to do with hate in order to understand how to not hate a fellow Jew. Hate may be part of the solution, but where do we put it? So let's begin. How do we interact with somebody who's doing things that are cruel and bad? The Alter Rebbe teaches us in Tanya chapter 32, and he quotes the Gemara, he quotes the Talmud that teaches us that when somebody sins, you have to hate them. Not only do you hate them, but you even have to tell your teacher to hate them too. This may, by the way, also remind us or explain to us a little bit of what Joseph was doing when he was telling Yaakov the behaviors of his brothers. Why was he telling his teacher the behavior of his brothers? Why was he telling Yaakov the sins that he saw his brothers doing? For anyone who's just listening to this, sins are quote unquote sins, because there's obviously deeper layers to the story. So what does that mean? What is the Talmud telling us when it's telling us to hate our fellow who's sinning? And so that's the first layer that we need to understand. When we love someone, then we hate whatever hurts them. Every sin is something that God hates. Just like I should hate a person who, God forbid, rapes a child that I love, when we have very, very sensitive souls, when we see a person doing something that's hateful to God, we would feel like we hate that person. So again, Torah doesn't take the line of apathy. Torah doesn't take a line of just total embracing of everything and everyone, right? Powerful feelings have a place to be. There's a reason for powerful feelings. What's the reason? What's the place to put hatred? To hate that which God hates. Let's just slow that down a little bit because that could have been a little too fast. Again, when you think of how somebody hurts somebody else, you can hate them for hurting the person you love. I'm slowing this down because every single one of us has to find a place in our lives where that's true in a way that we can understand. So if you love someone, try to think of an example in your head. And somebody is hurting them tremendously. You hate the person who's hurting them. I hope that makes sense up until now. And what Torah is telling us is there is a place for that hatred. Meaning, it's not the end of the story. We're not going to walk away from this lesson being like, oh, just hate them. But it is the beginning of the story. It's one ingredient. We'll give another example, right? Ghost peppers, right? Ghost peppers, they're very powerful, right? Hate is a very powerful word. Ghost peppers are a very powerful flavor. Does that mean there's no place for ghost peppers? And the answer is no, it's one ingredient. Okay, so let's try to think of hate as one ingredient. It's so powerful. Hate is such a powerful word. We want to just reject it completely. We want to say, no, I don't hate anyone ever. But that's not true. It's not that we don't hate anyone ever. It's that we need to recognize that it's a very, very powerful ingredient and we need to know where to put it. So just like ghost peppers is one ingredient and we need just a touch of it, when somebody is hurting somebody else, when somebody is behaving with cruelty, there's a place for a tiny bit of hate, like a ghost pepper amount of hate. There's a place to hate what they're doing. Now, let's continue to make our soup and let's add the other ingredients. The Alter Rebbe continues in chapter 32 and he says, just because you hate them, it doesn't mean that you don't also love them. Okay, but that's crazy because there aren't these opposite feelings. How can I love someone and hate someone? Aren't these opposite feelings? And the Alter Rebbe is going to teach us how these are not contradictory feelings. On the contrary, you almost can't even hate someone that you don't really love. Meaning, you can reject someone that you don't love. You can abolish someone that you don't love. You can make them irrelevant in your life, somebody that you don't love. A criminal that has done the most horrific thing, even Hitler, let's say, God forbid, we don't really hate Hitler. We kind of just reject him completely. He's just a monster. He's not related to us. We have nothing to do with him. We don't love him. We don't hate him. Goodbye. If he never existed, we wouldn't care. We'd be very happy if he never existed. Do you understand that we don't even have hatred for him? We just want to erase him completely. We don't even want to use our energy to even hate him. We just want him to not exist. And we definitely hate what he's done to our fellows, but what we're thinking is of what he did to our nation. Him, himself, we have no feeling toward. We don't want him in our lives, period, out. Our brother who does something cruel, when we hear in the news that there's a criminal, if the criminal isn't on our side of the world, isn't in our neighborhood, isn't in our family, isn't, we could almost just let that news pass. But the minute we hear 1 second, that criminal was a Jew, his name was, you know, I don't want to give any real names. His name was Goldbergerstein. We suddenly feel a hatred, right? Like if we just hear a random criminal whose name is Smith, who did something out in Arkansas somewhere, the news comes, the news goes. But the minute we hear that the criminal, even if he was out in Arkansas, and we hear that he, swindled and cheated millions of people out of money, and then we hear his name was Goldbergerstein, suddenly he's not irrelevant anymore. Suddenly we hate him. Why? Because we love him, because he's our family, because he's one of us. So that just kind of is a little bit of evidence in our lives that even hatred is on the other side of the coin of love, meaning there's a connection here. There's a bond that even gives me this powerful feeling to begin with. But now we need to figure out, what do we do with this hate and what do we do with this love? How can they both be true when they're such contradictory feelings? So the Alter Rebbe continues to guide us, and he explains, both of these feelings are true because they're directed at different parts of this person. We hate the sin, but we love the person on account of their soul. We hate what they did, and we truly do, and it's a ghost pepper. It's a hard feeling. It's not like we're just like, oh, we kind of intellectually don't like what they did. No, it's a real intense feelings. We hate what he did. It's a powerful feeling. It's a harsh feeling. It's a strong feeling. We hate what they did. But we love their soul. Underneath everything they did is a human being, a Jew, who has a soul that's the same soul as I have. They're a literal part of God. They are a part of my family. They're a brother and a sister. Their soul is identical to my soul. We are the same. They're my family, and they're even part of my body. They're a fellow Jew, and I love them, but I hate so much what they did. So how can I hold these two feelings in my body now? We need a third feeling that will align all of this, meaning which one will win? My hatred for what they did or my love for who they are? I need a third ingredient to glue the two of these and to make sense of the two of these. And the third ingredient that the Alter Rebbe gives us is compassion for the soul that is a prisoner to the behaviors. This person did something so awful. We hate what they did, but you know who else hates what they did? Their own soul hates what they did. Mr. Goldbergerstein is a prisoner. The soul of Mr. Goldbergerstein is a prisoner that's in a dark and cold and awful prison of his own behaviors. Meaning, there's a person right here who is suffering so much more deeply than you ever can. You get to shut the news cycle and you get to move on and you get to forget about this person who's done such criminal behavior in Arkansas. But you know who can't run away from that? They themselves and their soul can't run away because it's them. They have to put up with their own behaviors. So let's bring this closer to home. Let's bring this back to our neighbor, right? Our neighbor who's spewing terrible opinions that are, Jew-hating opinions. You can hate their behaviors. You can hate their opinions. You could say, these are terrible opinions. You can love their soul. You can say, oh my gosh, like that is a daughter of Israel. That's a fellow Jew. It's a woman who has a soul just like I do. Her soul wants to make the world a better place. But her soul is in such a horrible prison. Her soul is worthy of compassion because her soul has no voice. Meaning my neighbor's soul doesn't get to express Jew-loving opinions. Her soul is to be really, really, I don't want to use the word pitied because it comes with such kind of condescending overtures, but you know, it's colored with condescension, but her soul deserves
Understood.
mercy. Mercy. Her soul does, yes, her soul deserves to be understood, but her soul also deserves mercy, deserves our mercy and compassion. So now I have this person in front of me. I hate their opinions. I love her soul, but the greatest feeling that I really have for this young woman is compassion. Because I feel bad that there's a Jew here with a Jewish soul whose soul is trapped and exiled and cannot express herself. The soul cannot express herself. So the deepest feeling that I have for this woman is compassion. I feel very bad that there's a Jew who cannot express her Judaism right now. Or I feel bad that there's a Jew here who cannot express his Judaism right now. And so what we meditate on when we think about this person, a Jew who we can't find their soul, we can't find the motivation, we can't find any part of them. We don't see that their motivation is, I want to make the world a better place. They deserve even more of our compassion because their soul is so trapped under so many layers of dirt that they can't even find their own soul. Their soul doesn't have any place to express herself that is visible to the world. We haven't spoken yet about, well, what do I do with this, right? We just spoke about now, how do I feel about her? We've spoken a little bit about what we can do. What we can do practically is we can have curiosity. We can have listening. We can respect and honor and invite and allow her to talk, even if we don't agree with a single word she says. But inviting everyone into our home isn't always practical and isn't always even the right thing to do. But what we could talk about is how to feel. Even if we can't always bring it into what to do, we could talk about today what to feel. And so Jewish Spark of Unity number 3, how do I feel toward a Jew whose soul I can't see at all? What I can feel is compassion, that there's a Jewish soul that cannot express herself. So I hate the behaviors. I love the person. And I feel compassion for the soul because the soul is such a deep darkness that she can't express herself at all. Does anyone have any questions about Spark of Jewish Unity number 3?
First of all, thank you, E.T. This is really, really, you nailed it to really help us understand the action and the way we should feel about the action. I just wanted to at least thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure. Okay.
I love your explanation. Thank you. And are there times when separation is okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I expound on that just a tiny drop? The way for separation to not be a contradiction to unity is when you're able to come to a place where the separation is where the separation is for their sake, or where you have humility of your weakness, and that's why you place the separation. So let me just go into each of these real quick. When a person is treating you disrespectfully, you're putting a separation motivated by wanting to protect them from their own behaviors. It's not kindness to let a person be disrespectful. It's actually the bigotry of low expectations. Everyone should treat others with respect. If a person cannot treat you with respect, it's not a kindness to allow them to treat you disrespectfully. It's actually the bigotry of low expectations. You're telling them you're unable to be respectful, so I will just let you not be respectful. That's not respect. That's the bigotry of low expectations. When you put a separation, what you're telling them is you are capable of respect. And so when you're able to behave respectfully, you'll be 100% welcome back in my life. Go get the help you need. Get therapy, get human relationship classes, get anger management classes. Do what you need to do that will allow you to be respectful. And when you can be respectful, there's nothing I want more than to have you back in my life. So that's number one. The separation is motivated by love of fellow Jew. It's not motivated by self-protection.
Thank you so
The
much.
second
That was
aspect-
amazing.
The second aspect is, what if it is motivated by self-protection? That's okay, but make sure that there's humility there. Meaning, if you if you don't let somebody into your life because you feel you will be crushed, recognize that you have a temporary weakness, meaning you can't have full unity right now because you're still learning. You're still a child, spiritually a child. You're still weak. You're still vulnerable. You will be crushed. You'll be destroyed. But it's not the end game. The end game is not, I am too weak to let this person into my life. The end game is, I just technically, because of my human limitations, I'm not strong enough to handle the other person in my life. So I'm putting up this boundary, but I will try to learn and grow and become strong enough to be able to have full love for this other person. Okay, so the goal, the hope, the aspiration is to be strong enough to never have to kick someone out of my life because they're hurting me. Right? I want to be strong enough that nobody's words can hurt me because I'm connected to God and I know my Jewish strength and the goal is to be unoffendable. It's a process though. And we may not be there yet. And it's okay to have humility and recognize, I am offendable. I have this, weakness, and therefore I have to make sure this person isn't in my life right now because I just don't have the strength to handle it. But it's not an ideology, it's humility. It's a humility of recognizing our human weakness. We don't kick toxic people, quote unquote, toxic, right? Quote unquote, God forbid we should call people toxic. Maybe they have toxic layers, but God forbid anyone should be called toxic, right? So quote unquote toxic, we don't kick them out of our lives because we're so, because assertiveness is an ideology. Heck no, assertiveness should never be an ideology. The ideology should be to be so strong that I can handle all kinds of people in my life, and that the only reason I would tell someone not to be in my life is for their own good, meaning I expect them to be respectful, and so I tell them, when you're respectful, you could come back into my life. The goal is to be a strong Jewish woman who can lead by example, and somebody who's having a lot of toxicity in their life should be able to learn from us and lean on us, and that we shouldn't kick them out of our lives. So temporarily, it could be that we just aren't strong enough. We could recognize that with humility. And of course, the best case scenario for a reason to put up a boundary is out of concern that the other person is getting what they need. We don't want to enable bad behaviors, which then weakens people. We want to show them how much we believe in them. You could be a respectful person. So go learn what you need to learn to become a respectful person. And I am waiting here. My door's open. As soon as you can be respectful, I can't wait for you to come back into my life. Okay, Paulette. Sorry, just enable your mic so we can hear you, please.
I think forgiveness plays an important role in this. Hate is a very, very strong ingredient, right? And when we feel that hate, that ingredient, or whatever variety of that you want to call it, we feel that inside of us, separate and apart from whatever it is the other person did. And we want to keep clean and pure and the light burning bright inside of us. So we do have to find a way to not be responsive to that hate that comes inside of us.
Paulette, I'm so sorry. You're saying something so important that I actually have to go into the Tanya to show you that the hate then goes away. It's a temporary ingredient. It's actually more like putting alcohol into a cake and then it dissipates. So
Okay.
please continue.
Okay.
You're-
So here's what I have this thing on my desk. It says forgiveness is the greatest gift, is the best gift. Because I don't want to carry any of that stuff inside of me. But linking it to the Tanya, and I'm assuming most of us identify with being a Benoni, we have a choice. So the Benoni has that feeling of, ugh, I hate this person. And the reasons don't matter. It's just that feeling. And then that's kind of like a little Rashi. And then we have the opportunity to choose what our thoughts, speech, actions, emotions inside of us are going to be. And that elevates us from Rashi thoughts to Benoni. And that's kind of like a very simple, elementary process that I think of when I'm responding to something outside of me or some person, and I look at them or I hear something and I just hate what they said or did because I don't want it inside of me.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought as you were speaking is how can anybody measure the darkness or brightness of somebody else's soul? I think that's, and I stay away from that. Who am I to measure what's inside of somebody else? You know, the only thing that I can control or be responsible for is who I want to be around, right? And who I want to listen to or hang with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't cut people out of my life. I might just move away from them for a while. I might choose to not share things with them. I know a lot of Jewish people who call themselves secular. They don't want to be part of this conversation that we have. They have no interest in it whatsoever. I've tried to share pieces of it, and they have deaf ears. They don't have dark souls. They do other things in life, as I observe, that show me they care about human beings. They do other things. They just don't want to do anything for some reason. I don't know why. Anything Judaic, but they're Jewish.
Yeah.
Does that mean they have a dark soul? No. I've seen these people sit with dying people. I've seen these people go out of their way to visit the sick in the hospital, do all sorts of things, the top line mitzvahs, but they won't do anything Jewish. They don't want to be anywhere around anything Jewish. They don't want to hear anything Jewish I have to share.
Yeah, you're pulling a little bit on, I don't know, were you here yesterday or heard Spark
No,
of Jewish Union number 2? Okay.
I've been out with shingles. I've been in so much.
Oh no, welcome
like
back.
Today is the first day I feel like I'm not going to die.
Welcome back. I'm sorry. So you're pulling on a lot of Spark of Jewish Union number 2. These build on each other. The foundation of Spark of Jewish Union number 2 is that every soul is bright.
Okay.
Every soul, the voice of the soul, if we could distill it to one sentence, is, I want to make the world a better place.
Okay.
So that was foundation number 2. Every single soul is brighter than you can imagine.
Okay.
Every single human soul wants to make the world a better place. What we're looking at today is, what if I can't find, what if the extreme cases of people who we don't see them behaving
I see.
in ways
Okay.
that are aligning with their soul? That's perfectly okay, because I'm sure other people weren't here either. But Paulette, I want to share something else that's really, really important with what you say. And I think it does work with our analogy, because what happens when you put the little ghost pepper into the soup or the chili or whatever, and then you turn on the flame of the fire and you cook, what happens to the heat of the flavor?
It dissipates.
It dissipates. It dissipates. Compassion is like that fire, and it actually causes the hatred to dissipate almost completely, or maybe completely. And I want to show that to you inside the chapter 32 of the Tanya that we just quoted for this lesson, for this spark of Jewish unity. Look at this. One must also arouse compassion on the divine soul of the person who sinned. For in the case of somebody who's behaving wickedly, the soul is in exile within the evil of the external, their behaviors, the evil of their behaviors, or their external self, their superficial self that dominates the soul. What does compassion do? It banishes the hatred. So just like that heat, we need the ghost pepper. It's got to be in there somewhere.
Mhm.
We're not in denial, but we put it, but then we heat it up with the flame of compassion.
Mhm.
What does it do? It banishes the hatred. So hatred is like the beginning. It belongs while we're cooking up this whole stew, but there's no room for it once the stew is cooked. There's no room for it in the final product. There's no room for hatred to remain in our heart. So we acknowledge the hate. We recognize that we hate the hateful behavior. But then we feel so bad for the soul that the compassion for the person themselves banishes the hatred,
Mhm.
houses the love. That is the end goal that we're trying to get to. Even someone whose soul I don't see at all, I'm not left with hatred, I'm left with compassion. So I hate what they're doing. And then I remember the soul. I am arousing the compassion for the soul and the compassion for this poor soul that can't even voice herself. And then my compassion for the person themselves banishes the hatred and arouses the love.
Mhm.
So thank you, because the point you brought up is really important. We're not walking away with, all these sparks of hatred inside ourselves. No, we got to awaken the compassion that then banishes the hatred completely.
So I've been using the word forgiveness and compassion interchangeably. And I think what I'm going to do after this class is really take a look at those two words and see if they're separate, a little bit different. Do you know what I'm saying?
Can I make a suggestion for where I
Sure,
see
of
them
course.
separately in my life?
Mm-hmm.
One difference, there may be many differences. One difference is compassion is for somebody who's hurting us right now. Compassion is for someone who's misbehaving right now. And forgiveness is something that I apply for past behaviors. You cannot forgive. I mean, I don't know if you cannot, but the way I'm thinking about it is forgiveness is not appropriate to someone who's hurting me right now.
Well, what if you have a long string of this person has been hurting and today
Right.
is a new hurt? It's like an ongoing relationship, mother and son, whatever it might be, ongoing
Right.
hurts today. So
right now,
right?
right now, while they're yelling at me, I can't forgive them because that's a rejection. Like, let's say a neighbor is yelling at me right now, and I'm like, I forgive you, I forgive you. That's really kind of like, I reject you, I'm not listening to you. But imagine if they're yelling at you and you're saying, I feel so bad that they're yelling. Like, I feel a compassion. Like, I feel bad that there's a person here who's trapped in such strong feelings that they
I see.
can't even behave properly.
I see. So I think.
But then the minute they walked away, you can immediately apply forgiveness and be like, I don't hold it against them what they just yelled at me for the past hour. I forgive all of that. I let it go. but you can't forgive in the moment because then you can't reject them.
I see what you're saying, right? So the initial response is compassion for seeing that they're responding the way they are because they're trapped in some place inside of themselves.
Yeah,
And then however long it takes after you go through that compassion, you go into
the forgiveness is just a not holding on to it once it's
holding on to it, right? Yeah.
and forgiveness is going to come from a different place, and we're going to learn about it.
Okay.
It's going to be another spark of Jewish unity.
Okay.
How to fully release any hurt anyone has ever caused you.
I love
Thank you,
that.
Paulette. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.